Hello and welcome everybody to the first ever episode of This Week Online. I'm Jacob and with me is my co-host Prad. This show, we're going to be looking at things that happen online. We're talking social media, we're talking YouTube, podcasts, whatever it may be. But first of all, we want to give ourselves a bit of an introduction to you guys so you get a feel for who we are. Prad, do you want to start off?
Yeah, so like Jacob said, I'm Prad. I'm a uni student who enjoys gaming, basketball, and a fair few other things, which hopefully you'll learn through this show. I actually run another podcast called Plug, the official NBA Beancast. Sorry about the plug, Jacob. I enjoy a fair bit of content on YouTube, particularly a guy called MXR. So just a whole lot of random stuff. Keep track of esports a bit, and yeah, that's about it. Also music, but yeah.
Yep, awesome. I work as an associate producer for a advertising agency here in Melbourne. So my job's actually sort of focuses around podcasts and other bits and pieces. So I'm a big podcast lover. The one that got me into podcasts was the podcast by CGP Grey and Brady Harron, Hello Internet. Good day if you're watching. And other bits and pieces on YouTube, massive YouTube fan, Scotty Kramer, Mighty Car Mod, Skid Factory, even to like things like educational channels like Matt versus Japan. Massive fan of Matt versus Japan. And so that, you know, hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of where we're coming from with this show. And let's get right into the topics, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Jacob, You found the first one earlier this week, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Okay, so this is a controversy that has been going on for a while now. As you mentioned to me yesterday, Prad, it actually started way back when the Red Cross had made an advertising campaign to do a blood drive in Japan. For those unaware, there is a manga series and now anime series called Uzaki Wants to Hang Out, being the English title.
Yes.
And essentially this character is quite tomboyish, short hair, short stature, but big boobs. And people were upset on Twitter about the fact that they were using this character, or the Red Cross was using this character to get people to come in to donate blood. It's just kept going on. And there's a YouTuber called Hey. I've watched one or two videos from him about this, and I was surprised to still see going on. And he showed Twitter's reaction still to the series.
Yes.
Saying that women like this don't exist, essentially, and that the art style is ugly and all these other sorts of things. But what seems weird to me is that a lot of what they're objecting about is the fact that the shows or the manga sexualizes apparently a young girl or a girl that looks young.
Yes.
When in actual fact, she's a university student in the series, in the first novel of the manga, which I have read, although in Japanese, so I didn't get all the details. But if we're going to be choosing one to complain about these sorts of things on, you would not be choosing Uzumaki at all. Like there are way worse ones. Yeah.
You said Uzumaki.
Uzaki. Pardon.
Such a sexualized character.
Yeah. I mean, he does. When he transforms into the girl.
That's true. No, you've got it right. I mean, there's definitely like a conversation to be had around the fact that Japan has to use at the end of the day, sexualized woman, not a young girl. She's a woman, in order to get people to donate their blood. But the argument seems to have changed to the entire conversation seems to have changed to a young girl being sexualized, which that's not the case. There's like you've said as well. There's many worse manga that actually then needs to be focused on, because that they shouldn't be, that there should be people complaining about that. There's the fact that those are considered a norm and completely ignored is insane.
Yeah, if we're going to be talking about anything, why aren't we talking about series like Eromanga Sensei or any key visual novel? Any
Yes.
key visual novel, essentially. Maybe save Angel Beats. I've only ever watched the actual series. I've not actually played the visual novel, but still.
Yeah.
This is the wrong one to be choosing to push this message through.
Yes.
I'm not sure what else is out now, like as a current anime, but there has to be a better option. At least
there's definitely there's one that's going to have an
recently.
anime adaptation soon. Like the manga has gotten really popular, so it's going to get an anime soon. It's Don't Bully Me Nagatoro, and
Yeah,
I told you about that yesterday. It's a young high school girl who the main character is, they're both in high school, so I guess that can sort of forgive it. But the girl herself, she's shown in really very close ups when she's in swimwear. There's like in the manga itself, there's visualizations of her in in a leopard print bikini set.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be okay. But if you look at the comments about that, like if you try and have a conversation about why is this okay? Why is it okay for a young girl in high school or less maybe to be sexualized? You get if it was on Reddit, but you get downvoted to hell. Like people don't want to have that conversation because that's just the norm.
Yeah, but it seems weird. Like, why aren't we talking about that one in this way instead of Uzaki, which, like, if we're going to be talking, if we look at the argument that's being made, it's the fact that it's an underage girl or looks like an underage girl when she's 19.
Yes.
Like saying that if you're short, you have to be underage, which is not the case.
No, it's not.
Which is not the case.
And I mean, we know that in anime, and there's been a long history of showing a character to look one way, but she looks the complete opposit. Or they look the complete opposite. I don't want to use gender specifically either because of fate. But I mean, there's situations where a girl who looks like she's 3 years old is actually 115, something like that. Thousands of years old.
Toho's been doing that for years.
Yeah. And it's like, why are you trying to talk about this when you don't have the full information? I think that's what it comes down to. People don't have the full information, and they're trying to get into a hysteria about this when they could be putting their intention and focus towards the fact that there are so many degenerate manga. At the end of the day, they are. Like, I cannot believe we are okay with seeing a high school girl in a bikini or something like that, but a 19-year-old who happens to have large breasts and is kind of short is a problem. Yeah,
it's just evident to me that these people have never watched or read a manga before.
I don't think they've even read
an anime.
I don't think they've even read or watched Uzaki. That's the thing.
No,
I think
I've read, as I said, I've read the first volume of the manga, and I've also seen snippets of the anime, funnily enough, on Instagram.
Yeah.
And there is mention to the fact that she has really big boobs, but it's not like...
It's not a focus. It's like another part of the comedy.
Yeah, it is part of the comedy. It's like an extension of slapstick almost, which is very, very anime.
Yes.
So maybe these people who haven't watched anime before just aren't used to the tropes. Maybe that's the thing.
I think because I think what's happened is that, like, obviously this has been going on for a long time, like you said, since October last year, nearly a whole year.
I forgot it was that long.
Yeah, right. Because it's come up twice essentially. Like there was the first campaign for the collaboration, and then it sort of died down because people were outraged about it, and so I think they stopped.
Got bored.
Yeah, but then they were like, oh, we're going to double down. We're going to do it again. And people got up on that again. And because Uzaki-chan has gotten on trending, people see, oh, that's just a young-looking girl who's got large breasts. That's a problem. That's not allowed. We can't have that. And they're just seeing the pictures and arguing about that without actually knowing, oh, wait, she's 19 years old.
yeah, it is the wrong hill to be dying on.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah. If anybody's interested about seeing the original controversy, there's a really great video by that Japanese man Yuta, which goes into detail about what was happening and even translates some Twitter comments for those who still suffer from monolingualism.
Plebs, all of you.
Yeah, plebs. I'm trying my best to get there. I'll get there eventually, but I think that will give you a fairly decent overview because he doesn't seem biased at all. He's just saying his take.
Yeah.
I would also recommend people to go look at Hiro Hayes' video. He's clearly biased.
Yes.
He's definitely one of those like red pilled types, but like I don't know if it's really bad in this situation. I think he has a good point as well. It's just like, why this character?
Yeah.
Why this one particular?
Yes.
And as we've
That's the
come
question.
to the conclusion,
Yeah.
And as we've come to the conclusion, it's simply because they haven't watched or seen enough manga and anime to really know.
I mean, a couple of things
that
do
this
have
isn't
to
the
be,
one you want to be choosing.
A couple of things do have to be said for the fact that it's so hard to find manga or anime where there is no reference to, sexual women being sexualized. Like the fact that
even a high school anime is like, that's it. Like you think about like how many slice of life animes or manga have been created that have all been around high school.
Yes.
There's not many that have been elsewhere. Wotokoi comes to mind. And that's about people who work in a company.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the extent of my knowledge when it comes to that sort of genre outside of high school.
Yeah.
And I've wondered this for a while, why these creators seem to be so focused on the idea of high school. Maybe it's something about the nostalgia. Japanese culture seems to focus heavily on the idea of nostalgia.
Yeah. It's that and the fact that there's a very, and I think you might have noticed this if you look in like the newly starting manga these days, there's always a like specific kind of character that people want to see. So it's like the uncaring character who actually cares really deeply for everyone.
Yeah,
essentially.
So
and the best place to put, it's not even that really, because it's the male character that's usually like that.
You can't have a male tsundere? I would say you could.
You can, as in the way they're depicted, right? Like, like normal height, black hair, usually doesn't talk to many people, but suddenly he has all these female friends, and they're always in high school.
Yes.
And even if they have a couple of male friends, there's like it's a very, very common trope to have in an anime. And when you do that, you can almost create because I've lived in Japan, and I know for a fact that a lot of the students are like the representations of high school and school in Japan are not anything close to what you see in anime and manga. But they can sort of create a unrealistic scene in a realistic location
environment.
Because school is something that everyone like. If you look at some of the more like out there manga or anime, like Sword Art Online or Naruto or something like that, sure, they have their popularity, but at the end of the day, like I can't imagine myself as Naruto because I can't create Rasengan, but I can imagine myself as a high school student because we were all there.
Do you reckon it's just relatability?
Yeah, for sure. But it's even in I feel like even in those like just slice of life manga or anime, there always has to be some reference to I don't know, maybe a girl landing in a really bad position on a male, like that the common joke, right?
Yeah, I can't help. I will always laugh at that.
Like it's funny. It's definitely funny.
I'm pathetic.
But
I can't help it.
Can you not do anything without that?
What do you mean?
Is it not possible to, because we've seen manga and anime be successful without that? We, like you mentioned yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
Nichijou, Lucky Star, even Gintama. There's like one character who we rarely ever see, and it's her failures at being sexy that are funny.
Yeah.
It's like we can do that. We've seen it be majorly successful, but Japanese manga seems to just not want to do that.
Yeah, I would say maybe it's just the easy way out.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think that's kind of it for that one. I think we've come to a fair conclusion.
Yeah.
That if you were to be concerned about these things, Uzaki is not the right series to use to catapult or to jump off with these concerns.
But if you do have any other thoughts on that, for example, about other anime or other ways that anime could be changed to suit this kind of thing, please hit us up in the comments for that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Shall we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Do you want to go for this one?
Yeah, sure. So this is Epic Game. This is related to Epic Games. Their, basically their flagship game, Fortnite, and its placement on the Apple Store and Google Play Store. Essentially, Epic Games figured out a way to get away from Apple demanding. No, not even demanding. It's in the writing that you have to pay 30% of any in-game purchases to the App Store, to Apple. And Fortnite was like, hey, we don't want to do that. So they implemented a way for there to be a direct payment option. But unfortunately, Apple was like, hey, you're not allowed to do that. And Fortnite was removed from the Apple Store. And soon after that, the Google Play Store followed suit. And it's very strange that there's no other option here for any app that doesn't want to pay the 30%. Because what they were doing until now was essentially, if there was an in-game purchase, say it was like, a dollar, they would instead make it $1.50, and then that 50 would go to Apple. And then the dollar would be the dollar would be Fortnite's. And so they would just add the 30% on top rather than having it, they're just 30% of the original dollar.
Yeah, they're just passing the extra cost of them onto the consumer.
Yeah. And I guess if you are the consumer, you sort of feel like Epic Games is like, yeah, like shout out to you, man. You're helping me out. But at the end of the day, like you said earlier, Apple does. It's not like Apple was hiding anything. It's very clearly in every piece of writing they have. You have to pay 30%.
It's very, very clear.
Yeah.
And this is obviously an attempt by, as you just said, Epic Games not wanting to pay this 30%.
Yes.
Because at the size of Epic Games and the amount of money they would be making from Fortnite, even from iOS alone, would be hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like
hundreds and hundreds of millions. And that 30% would probably also be hundreds of millions of dollars. So I can understand why they don't want to pay it.
Yeah.
But it was clear. And Apple has taken a no bullshit stance on this, and has come down quite heavily on them, also going as far to threaten banning any use of the Unreal Engine on iOS platform and Mac actually as well, and ceasing development of any sort of developer tools for these platforms. This seems a little heavy-handed for me. I can understand Apple being pissed.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But this affects people, or rather companies and small developers who use the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
And I reckon that is a bad move. I can completely understand removing Fortnite. It does suck if you're 12.
Yes.
Like, how many games use Unreal Engine? There's so many.
No, there's an insane. Like, I remember, I think it was Infinity Blade. Do you remember that game? Something like that. It was like a really cool game. It was like like very high quality for the day, for its time. Surprisingly good graphics on a mobile. And it was using the Unreal Engine, I'm quite sure. And it's like, that was such a big game back in the day. And you wouldn't be able to play that.
No.
You wouldn't be able to play that because of this. And it's like, there's so many other amazing games that are kind of small like that would just be completely gone. And yeah, that's insane to me. But it's really strange that they're saying, because obviously on Apple you can't get an app anywhere else.
Yeah, on iOS.
Yeah, on an Android, if you want to download an app, you can also just go directly to the site. There's a lot of apps that aren't on the Google Play Store.
Yes,
You can just download it, extract it, do whatever, and you would have access to the app on your phone.
I've done that actually as well because I wanted to use an app that was region locked.
Yeah.
And I couldn't download it for the life of me from the App Store, even with the use of a VPN. So I sideloaded it.
Yeah.
So Android is more flexible in that respect. So if you were concerned about wanting to play Fortnite on your Android phone, first of all, I don't know why you would be wanting to play Fortnite on a phone when it's way better on either PC or console. But that's by the by. That is by the by.
You do you, guys.
Yeah, you do you. But it is possible.
Yes.
Right? So it's not the end of the world. It does make it a bit more inconvenient for consumers.
Well, for Android consumers.
It is not... for Android consumers. But it's not the end of the world. Banning this on iOS is very heavy-handed.
Especially because, you can't get it anywhere else on the iOS.
Yeah.
It's
like... I mean, they were told.
Yeah.
To be fair, they were told, and they still tried to get around it.
Yeah.
And Fortnite being banned, sucks, but as I said before, understandable. I'm banning Unreal Engine, not great.
That's not very epic.
No, not very epic. Not very gamer review. But it should also be mentioned that there have been similar apps that have come under the same sort of scrutiny by Apple.
Yeah.
So for instance, Valve, they tried to release the Steam Link app that allows you to stream games from your PC, I believe, to your device of choice, be it your phone, or whatever else have you. So, but on iOS, it actually came in violation of the terms and conditions for developers because you could buy games through the app itself. Valve rectified the situation and just removed the option completely. So you can still use the app on iOS.
Yeah.
You can just no longer buy games through it. And I think that's a fairly decent compromise.
Yeah, because you can just get your games
get
your games while you're on your PC and then have access to them on your phone if they're
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a fair compromise to make. But then you've got ones like NVIDIA GeForce, like their streaming one. You've got Google Stadia and Microsoft xCloud, which are all apparently banned, or at least in limbo on the iOS App Store, as you can buy through them and you use their specific payment processing. So the whole thing comes down to the fact that Apple really doesn't want any app to not use Apple's own payment processor.
Yeah.
Right? And for smaller creators, I think that this actually takes a lot of burden off of them. I believe Luke from Linus Tech Tips and of Flowplay Media also said, this is way better for us. We don't have to worry about a payment process or API, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And that's heaps less work for us. And, we're kind of, we're willing to do that. It is a lot of money. He said, don't get me wrong, 30% is still really high.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the world.
And the thing is, that's existed for so long that I feel like at some point you have to say, it's just a part of life for that. It's just a part of life for anything you want to put in the App Store.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and not to mention, Epic Games has been on the App Store for a decade.
Yeah.
As well. So they've already built a healthy business on there or through using iOS.
Yeah.
Delivering it that way to consumers. But this is just them trying to break the rules. Who loses in the situation? Both Epic Games
and 12-year-olds
and the 12-year-old consumers. But
think about the children, Jacob.
But think about the children, and also developers as well. Forgot about the developers who also use Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you. I'm kind of okay with Apple banning Fortnite. Does suck. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not exactly on board with them banning Unreal Engine.
Does the App Store count as a monopoly? That's a fairly quick change, I know, but like on the iPhone, I get that it's Apple's product, but on the iPhone, the fact that the App Store as a location to purchase other things, like if it was Amazon, for example, and they somehow had like 51% of all the stores in America, then people like they would be under fire. They would have to sell quickly and get under 50%. Same with Disney. They
just smudge the numbers.
Yeah, like
they're big enough to just be able to smudge the numbers.
Yeah, like they have to be so careful to, not go over 50% all the time. Whereas the App Store, they literally just say, you can't get apps anywhere else. And while I do get that it's on an Apple product, doesn't that still feel like I guess, it does feel a bit like it's a monopoly, because you can't.
A little bit of a I do think you can make that argument, but let's also go through the pros and cons. So what's the pros for a closed environment? 1, you're more secure.
Yes.
2, potentially the quality of the apps are better. Potentially, not always.
Yeah.
What else is there? I can't think of anything.
Well, here's the big
everything
thing.
works better.
Yes, but
it is like better Q&A. Yeah, essentially.
Well, here's the other thing though. Apple is an American company, and they are their motto is freedom though. How can you not have freedom in an American store?
Only when it's convenient. Only when it's convenient. But I think I don't know. I think I'm kind of okay with Apple. I do think it would be better for people who own an iOS device to be able to load things on that weren't from the Apple Store.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you have an iPhone, you kind of like the more curated experience.
Yeah, because with an iPhone, the best thing about an iPhone is for people around you to have an iPhone. Because if they do,
absolutely,
it is such a great environment. Like if you have an iPhone ecosystem around you, the usage is so comfortable.
Yeah, iMessage, great.
Yeah.
What's the other one? AirDropper or something like that?
Yep.
AirDrop. And if you have all Apple devices in your house, if you have an Apple TV, or what's the one? And Apple Home, which still should be called a HomePod.
Yeah.
If you have a Mac, if you have a phone, and they all talk to each other nicely.
Yes.
Like that is the power of having an ecosystem like that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of all right with it. I mean, to be fair, I don't really have a horse in this race. It doesn't affect me as an Android and Windows user.
One more thing I will...
Yes, I am poor, if anybody was wondering.
No, just one more thing I'll add on that is that it's like... It feels like... So, if you might remember a while back, the Apple Store itself had for games on the iOS, I don't know if it still exists. I haven't used an iPhone in a long time. But if you were to play a game if you played a game on the iPhone, there was another app that sort of kept track of all your records on the iPhone. It was like a game something. And it's like the ability to, for example, Epic Games has its own games. So would there be an opportunity for someone like Epic Games to create a store on the iOS, on the App Store, and via that you get get Fortnite?
No, that was the issue, because they don't want to be making they don't want any app on iOS not using Apple's payment process.
Yes, but then actually no, that really cuts it out. Like it.
Yeah, because you have downloaded essentially a client onto your phone to then download Fortnite to then make payment process. So it's just like essentially to Apple there'd be theft with extra steps.
But then why are like shopping stores allowed?
Maybe they use Apple's payment process. I've not actually thought about that.
Because like
I'm not sure.
That's in-app purchases,
honest,
isn't it?
I'm not sure. Yeah. I guess the only way they'd be allowed to is if they were using Apple's payment processor.
So then, does that mean when automatically, if you, for example, purchase an item of clothing via ASOS on the iPhone, do you pay automatically a certain amount more than if you buy it on your PC?
I guess it would be different if you were to. If I don't know if ASOS has a app on either iPhone or Android.
Oh, it has it has the Android app because I still use that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then if we're just talking about Android, because to be fair, Fortnite was also kicked off of Android.
Yeah.
Right? Although not Unreal Engine, as far as I'm aware. They probably do use Apple's and Google's payment processor. I think like if you were to buy, it probably would say, right? Or it would come up with a familiar looking Apple or Google designed box.
Yeah.
Which would be a fair indication. Yeah, look, I'm kind of cool with it.
Yeah. Like at the end of the day,
to be fair,
I don't play Fortnite.
It is interesting. No, nor do I, but I do think this is an interesting topic.
Yeah.
Which is why it's on the show.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, if anybody out there has an iPhone and is upset about not being able to play Fortnite on that now, do let us know. We'd be curious about hearing about what you think and anybody else's takes as well. We're always open to healthy discussion on this show.
Do let us know what it's like to play a game that is designed for PC on an inferior device.
Yeah.
Because
it's like
I don't know why you would subject yourself to that.
I don't get it.
I don't understand. I mean, it's
no, not do I.
How do you? Because have you seen people playing Fortnite?
Yeah,
it gets so fast paced, right? I can't imagine on an iPhone having to build an entire hut around you while also watching out for someone getting you with a long range snipe. Like,
it'd be pretty hectic. I know that there are like attachments now that are kind of like controllers, and apparently that makes it better.
Then why don't you just get a PC?
Yeah, exactly. I remember this is a bit off topic.
I know.
But I was watching this YouTube channel. I think it might have been called The University of Bill Burr. Bill Burr being the comedian. And it was just because, like, you know, and we'll get to it as well. But like, they had great clickbait, so I was going to click on it, and what it was Bill Burr's podcast, right? And they essentially had made a clips channel for the podcast, and the visual was Call of Duty Mobile.
Oh.
And it sucked. Like, the frame rate is choppy. You can tell people are DCing and reconnecting all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't look like a good experience. I don't know why anybody would play it unless they were really strapped for cash.
Yes.
I don't know how old this person was. They could have been like 14.
Oh.
But like, you know, if you have a phone that's capable of playing Call of Duty Mobile, you probably could have spent that money on like a 360 or an older Xbox One.
Yes.
Like, you could have. There were other options, and you chose the wrong one.
On the note of spending money incorrectly, for the love of God, please do not purchase an iPhone with Fortnite for the extra $1,000 that they're being resold for.
Or do it and send us through the receipt. Because I think that would be funny.
All right, I think we can move on from that one right there.
Yep, speaking of money.
Money.
Always about money. Okay, so if you're in Australia, you would have seen over the past couple of days, 4 or 5 days now at this point, a message from Google every time you open up Google Chrome, or if you're on the Google search page, you would see that Google is claiming that there's a disastrous regulation coming along and will 100% affect the way that Australians use internet or Google services from now on.
Yes.
Now, do you want to describe the message?
Let me just get a moment to get that message up again, because it's the way it's shown is to show you Google like it's some small indie company that's getting crushed by the immense power that is Australia.
The Australian government that probably doesn't even have half the GDP that Google has, but...
Oh, man. Okay, here we go. The open letter, the way Aussie's search is at risk. Oh, man. Okay, so here's the thing. It's like they put very specific titles or like subheadings for each area.
Yeah.
That like They really try and hit you directly and make you feel like you should care. The way Aussies search every day on Google is at risk, and they've highlighted at risk from new regulation. Your search data may be at risk, hurting the free services you use. It's really
Like, it's so well written.
Oh yeah,
I want to say that right
amazing.
now. It is so well written.
It is amazing.
If Google's Australia CEO wrote that letter, she's worth all that money.
Oh yeah.
Like, not only is it like, if we're looking at it like we're looking at it, not only is it kind of a funny read, like, it is a really emotive piece of writing.
Yeah.
She definitely would have passed VCE with that.
Emotive language, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Definitely would have got like a 98 for sure.
Or at least a 40 in English.
Yeah, at least a 40 in English. So, like, this, even though I kind of went like, oh, that's kind of funny, it was a little concerning at first.
Yes.
Because it doesn't really give you a lot of details.
They don't give you details. They just say stuff like, you've always relied on Google to show you what's most relevant and helpful to you. And we could no longer guarantee that under this law. Like, they're going to be so restricted to being the usual Google that they are.
Yeah. So essentially, the legislation that they're talking about is called, if anybody's curious, is called the News Media and Digital Platforms Mandatory Bargaining Code, which is an incredibly catchy name. And this was put together by the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, which is essentially like a watchdog here to keep things fair for everybody. I have read through a bit of it. I've read some sections more thoroughly than others, but it seems to me that Google, just like any other business, is just looking after their own interests.
Oh yeah, for sure.
With this, it doesn't seem that bad.
Yes.
So Google had stated they sent me a email through the Beancast email.
Yes.
Since I have access to that account, and it said that our data would be vulnerable and it would also suppress smaller creators like ourselves, which is a great way to get change done, is to scare a whole bunch of people into thinking that either their hobbies are going to be moot, essentially,
yes,
or their businesses are going to suffer.
Yes.
And that is a fair concern.
Yeah.
Like, especially now considering that the environment that we're in, so much of any economic activity is all done online. If you're buying goods, even if you're picking them up, you're buying them online and then you're collecting them in store. So I think this was, it was obviously quite targeted.
Yeah.
And Google did a great job of doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely stellar job. But it would seem, after reading through, because when we talked about this yesterday, we were not really sure who was the good guy and who was the bad guy in all of this. Yeah. And I think that was fair. Like, it was pretty it is pretty clouded.
Yeah, it was literally just because it was just Google said one thing and then our media said another thing, and it like at this point
I read a news.com.au article, and like the language in that was equally as emotive. Yeah. Equally. Yeah. Like, it was calling what Google was saying was slanderous and defamatory and all sorts of things. Like, this
defamation?
Is incredibly strong language.
Defamation? They could
defamation.
File
I think
charges.
It was defamation. We won't fact check that, but please fact check me. So look, they did, to be fair, I don't know if they used the word defamation, but they definitely used the other word I just used that I can't remember what I used anymore. Slanderous. Thank you. So essentially, this framework is just so that people, like, if you've been a content creator on YouTube for any length of time, or you follow any creators closely, especially if you've looked at anything from Nerd City, they've always been struggling trying to figure out what's the next shift in the algorithm and how's it working now. And what these companies are doing, so the companies in question, namely, I would say, like, if we're talking about big players in media in Australia, and that directly relate to this bill, we would be talking about News Corp and Nine Entertainment.
Yeah.
And probably the ABC to some extent as well, considering they're quite large here.
Mm-hmm.
So this bill essentially, or this code, or whatever you want to call it, whatever the correct term is essentially it's giving these companies the power to do what creators on YouTube have been wanting for such a long time, which is to know like how their stuff is being served on Google and on Facebook.
Which seems like information that like even creators in YouTube, in America should be asking for.
I think people have been asking this for ages. It's just the fact that nobody's had such a pull like the Australian mainstream media has.
Yes.
And that's what I think is kind of interesting. And also what was funny as well was the difference in valuation of the revenue that apparently Google collects and not any of these companies, which I don't know if is actually the case. Because if you use the Google app, just the one that's called Google, and you look and you read the news through that, the actual feed itself, no ads, none. Maybe a sponsored post. I haven't seen any when I went to go look.
Yeah.
When you actually click into it, there are ads.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that ad revenue is actually being given or split somehow to the appropriate company, whoever wrote the news, is a different question. I'm not sure. If you're using Facebook on the computer and you click on an article, I'm sure because all it does is open up another tab in your window, if you're seeing ads, News Corp or Nine Entertainment or whatever is going to be getting that revenue, surely.
Yes.
That's how it seems to me,
yeah.
right? I'm willing to be wrong on this. Mm-hmm. I really am. I don't have a horse in this race. I just think it's interesting.
We don't have a horse in any of these races, really.
No. It just seems like, it's just what we've been asking for. Like as content creators, this is all that we've been asking for, and I'm hoping this is the only thing I can think of is that it will give. This is the one thing. It definitely will give an unfair advantage to news corporations here in this country. But that's only because they've been getting what everybody else already wanted.
Yeah, but that's also
that's like the difference.
How much more of an advantage do you want to give to them though? Because during this pandemic, and I think you would have seen this as well, if you look on YouTube or something like that, I've never, and I told you about this yesterday, I've never ever clicked on anything by Sky News. I've never even searched them up. I think the one time I searched them up was when that guy did a really good speech about the Aboriginal situation. And apart from that, I've never searched up Sky News. And yet somehow every single news topic I see regarding the COVID-19 virus is by Sky News and them attacking Dan Andrews right now. It's like,
take that as you will. But like Google has been doing, like especially on YouTube, a really great job of delivering these news clips to people.
Yeah.
There's a whole breaking now section.
Yes.
And it's not just for Australia, because I use a VPN to watch stuff from Japan as part of my study of Japanese. It comes up for them too. It just comes up with the Japanese networks instead of the Australian ones. So, like, what do you want? Like, they're doing a great job. Like, I think as creators, I don't think this is going to change. Or if you're a business, mostly, this is probably not going to change the way that things work for us. That's my take. Yesterday, I was a little bit more on the fence about it. And look, I'll probably change my opinion as things goes on. But that's just
this is just the level of information we have right now.
Yeah, we're just basing this off on what we've read and how we've interpreted it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's probably more to this. Like, I'm also not versed in reading legal documents.
Yes.
So that also makes it difficult
I can tell you right now, because you sent me the Michael West Media one, and like
and that was a very simple read as well, comparatively.
Compared to the actual draft of the what do you call it?
The bill.
The bill, that's the word for it.
Yeah.
Compared to the bill, obviously this is simple. I barely understood this compared to the one that Google sent out.
It took me a couple of rereads to like understand the points.
Yeah, it's
it.
like it's just like, can you not make it more simple for people to understand so that we know exactly what's going on? And no one seems to be willing to do that, except for Google when they want to push their agenda.
Yeah, I do think this document is trying to simplify it because it's called the question and answers document.
Yeah,
about the draft, but it's still like you have had to have gone to university to be able to like grasp this, or being used to reading these sorts of documents. Like you would have had to do technical, I guess you would call it technical reading before, because otherwise you would definitely won't get, like, it's pretty verbose.
Yes,
a lot of the stuff. It is probably as simple as you could probably make it while trying to cover all the points.
Yeah.
I do think they've done a good job to put the document together.
No, like there were parts,
but it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely were parts in it that like made it very clear as to what was happening. For example, the punishment, I guess, the consequence. I don't know what a better word for that would be for Facebook and Google not attending this meeting.
It was a lot of money too. I haven't been able to find the actual number again. But
I didn't,
it was in the millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, I'm sure. But when it comes to Google and Facebook, millions and millions of dollars at the end of the day, it's still just like a drop in the pond.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're a big business, it's like we should have talked about before how Apple recently became the first, at least American company in history, to be valued at $2 trillion.
Yeah.
Big businesses don't become big by just giving away money.
No, yeah, that's also true.
Yeah. Whether you think that's the right thing or not doesn't really matter in this situation, because like our moral compasses aren't going to be able to affect this whatsoever, really. Unless we see a massive YouTuber protest. I don't think there are enough YouTubers in Australia to be doing this that are of note. I can think of a few, like Mighty Car Mods and I Did a Thing. The Anything for Views, Max Mofo, but like I don't think this is their vibe either.
I don't know what more to say on this, man. It's a weird one. Like it feels like it's just a wait and see situation. Like once this meeting happens and whoever else is included in this meeting, because right now they've just said like platforms, right? They haven't said whether it's
well, the platforms that they're specifically targeting at the moment, according to the document, are only Google and Facebook. Although I do reckon that it won't just stay exclusive to those two. I think that Twitter and whoever else may be pulled into it, like Tumblr, if anybody still uses that.
I feel like something does need to be said for the fact that like it feels like there's all this information about us, right? Like the information about what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, that's being passed around, and it's like, why do I not get a say in that matter? Because we were talking about this earlier, but it's like, if you want to, you can't not use the apps that Google provides, for example, YouTube, without giving a significant amount of your information, because the general experience improves so much. It's like, yes, you can say, I don't want to give my location, but then they'll keep on sending you alerts and telling you that you'll have a better experience if you have your location active.
Yeah, and you will. To be fair,
you will have a better experience
because that's the way that the apps are designed.
Yeah, but it almost feels like it's just a disclaimer where they're saying, "Oh, but you agreed to give us this information, so why do you complain about us using this information in the way that we want?"
Yeah, that's the issue. Is like if you want to, I don't know about on iOS, because I've never owned a product that's used iOS. Maybe save a iPod Touch from years ago. But on Android, you have to like agree to a whole bunch of stuff to even get into the phone.
Oh yeah,
like on the first startup, like there's a whole thing, and you can read it if you want, if you have the time, and also the knowledge of how to actually read a document like that.
Oh yeah,
a lot of legal documents are made confusing on purpose.
Yes. And you've read about and told us about this many times.
It's yet again, that's like lame anti-consumer behavior. like we saw from Apple earlier. I understand Apple's thing, right? But it's still anti-consumer at the end of the day.
Anti-consumer,
Unfortunately for us,
competition.
Yes, absolutely. But I think that this bill or this code or whatever, I think it is sort of making it more fair for these big news organizations to be able to find out how is the advertising being split, like to actually come to the table, talk about like, hey, we want how X amount of the revenue and you get to keep that. And we want to know like how they interacting with the news through your site. Like, and but there's nothing out of the ordinary either, because as you and me, like, you know, being the editor of the Beancast, I have access to our podcast analytics.
Yes.
And so we can see quite a fair bit. We can see where they're listening.
Yes.
Right?
What age they are.
Country, city, suburb. Like it goes down that far. We can see their age. Yeah, as you said, we can see their gender. We can see what device they're listening on. We can see retention rate. We can see all this sort of stuff. And I don't know how much these big news companies can already see.
Well, I know
that's probably the big question. It's like, how much more are they actually asking for?
Yeah.
In the bill itself, it sounds like they're not really asking for anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Although the bill is only really there to get them to sit down to talk about these sorts
there
of things.
There needs to be the conversation, obviously.
Yeah. So what actually ends up eventuating could be very different. Like it could actually be bad for everybody, but it could also not make a difference, right? And like, I don't think it's going to affect people on YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't think it will affect people on YouTube. The only people I reckon that it could harm negatively is for smaller news news like independent journalists, essentially. Because the bill only gives provision to people or companies rather who earn over $150,000 a year. And if you're first starting up, like how much money are you really going to make your first year, especially in journalism?
Unless like you get like hit the massive clickbait.
If you get the scoop, if you get like the whole like, if you get like a deep throat-esque scoop, you're sweet.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not the point. It really does, like, I think for a vast majority of Australians, I don't reckon this is probably going to make that much of a difference. Maybe a little bit.
Does this?
It's still early days.
Does this like sort of setup? Does it encourage clickbait? Because we know that clickbait
good. Like, clickbait. If you're on YouTube, right, and you need to figure out how to clickbait, right, I'm going to give you two options, right. You look at what Finn McKenty's been doing. He's been giving heaps. He's the dude from the punk rock NBA, one of my favorite guys. He gives you like a whole, like, this is how I do it. If you want to know how to do a YouTube channel, right, and you want the information for free, that's your dude currently, right? That really is your bloke. The second thing I would do is, like what we mentioned before, is look at how Sky News does it. Seriously, they are the best. Like out of all the agencies, all the other platforms on YouTube that does the news for Australia, they are number one when it comes to clickbait.
Yes.
They just are. It's so good. Like, not a fan of Sky News, but to be 100% fair, they are right up there in the clickbait game. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we can sort of move on from there to a slightly different topic.
Oh, yes, my sort of half-pissed take.
And it's related to, I guess, the algorithm you're talking about, because it's so damn confusing, right?
Yes.
Because Australians, we use what an American might call very vulgar words in our day-to-day language, which to us is completely normal, and in some cases even a compliment. It
can be a term of endearment, and we are, of course, talking about the word cunt.
Yes,
Yes. Lewis Spears had a great point about this as well. We'll link it down below if you're keen. Any of the stuff that we've mentioned, we will do our best to try and link down below. Yeah, it just seems weird. Like you were mentioning before that huge YouTubers like Jacksepticeye get away with this stuff all of the time.
Yes.
All of the time. And it doesn't seem to affect their rankings.
But then you see creators like, I don't know, PewDiePie, and he has to, censor everything. If he says one bad word, then, apparently that's bad for his channel. It's no longer family friendly.
Yeah.
But somehow Jacksepticeye's content still is. Yeah.
So unless, I don't know, maybe Jacksepticeye has a better community manager. I think that's what they're called. But it kind of seems like that the algorithm isn't playing fair, or somebody's behind the scenes not making it play fair.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some sort of discrimination based on like who the favorite child is and who isn't. And this is platform wide. We're not even just talking about PewDiePie or Jacksepticeye. This is platform wide.
Yes.
Because the amount of stuff like yet again, Luke Kitchell and Lewis Spears talked about this on their podcast about the song WAP.
That's a good one to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, regardless of what you actually think of the song, the fact that it was pushed and was trending, I believe, at number 1.
Yeah.
Like that song is full of coarse language and swear words.
Right from the get-go.
It's full of it. It's full of it. Yeah. Right from the get-go, right? I don't have a problem with them swearing or singing about whatever they were singing about, but it's just weird that YouTube was like, hey, this is cool. I do think, like Lewis was saying, it seems like the record labels have gotten together and saying, like, if you want us to put our stuff on your platform, then you got to, bow to us.
Yeah.
Now, so that's one thing sort of explained. We like whatever's happening with Jacksepticeye, it's a different thing. But what my sort of half piss takey thing was the idea of like systemic oppression, the idea that the big guy always squashes the small guy, right? So America, arguably the only superpower in the world, right? I reckon there's China as well. But if we're just talking about English language ones, America, right? The United States of America. So who are they to tell Australian creators, right, who Australia is only a middle power, right, that we can't use the word cunt if we want to use it?
Yes, because that's part of our everyday language.
But the thing is, it's like, I was actually saying this the other day, it's like, if I hear the word out of an American's mouth, it's like, ooh, that's really harsh.
Yes.
Right? But if it comes out of like Australians and New Zealanders and English or UK persons, or maybe even South African person's mouth, that's fine.
No,
I don't know
totally
why. It just seems way less harsh. I think it's just because of the way that it's used in the culture as well. I reckon it's kind of bullshit, to be honest. Like, it's just the way that people speak. And this idea of what's bad and what isn't is being clearly set up by it's just a bigger person. Like the whole idea is like the bigger person pushing their ideals on the smaller person. And obviously I'm kind of having a bit of fun with this. I'm not really that serious about this, but I do think it is an interesting thought experiment if we wanted to take it that far. So, I'd be curious to hear what other people think about this too. Like with all the topics we spoke about today, we'd be really curious about what you guys think. Did you have anything else to add?
Only thing I had to add was in regards to something like WAP and the record labels coming together to say, hey, you're not allowed to do this. It's like music, when it's released these days, it almost has to have its video on YouTube, right? Like,
absolutely.
But doesn't that mean that YouTube and Google have more power in that sense? Like, can't they just say, hey, no, if you don't release your music here, no one's going to find your video on Vimeo, okay?
That's a good point. That is a good point. Although,
but at the same time, obviously, it's a very lucrative deal for both sides, right? Like YouTube is probably getting loads of money for putting it there,
heaps.
And like it works for the music labels as well because they're getting the maximum possible views by putting their stuff on the most used video website.
Yeah. Look, all I'm going to say is that the other option is Daily Mail. Not Daily Mail, Daily Motion.
Daily Motion.
Daily Motion. Do you remember that?
I do.
But realistically, though, Spotify's new video capabilities is interesting to see like where that will lead us. Because if you use the app now already, you will get like a little animated, depending on if the musician or the band or whatever has uploaded it. You'll get like a little animated
like
thing
a loop sort of,
accompany. Yeah, like you'll get like a GIF essentially playing in the background. So I'm wondering if Spotify will not only go from hosting video for very specific podcasts, like obviously Joe Rogan's being the number one example. I think probably Michelle Obama's podcast will probably also be getting video. Yeah. But I'd also be curious to see in the future if we see
someone going exclusively on Spotify for the video.
Music videos. Yeah.
But here's the thing.
It will be interesting to see.
Even then, I think even if someone does go exclusive on Spotify, I think they can't afford to do that because someone else will just upload that video to YouTube and reap in the benefits of that. It's like,
oh yeah, absolutely. But what I'm saying is like I don't know if it become as big as a video.
Yes.
Right? Like they just can go like, okay, YouTube, like we don't want to play your game anymore. All right, I still think that might be a stupid thing to do. But like I think we are coming up to a world with more possibilities with these things.
Like the market for nearly every single type of application, I guess, is so saturated now. And
insane.
I guess video, videos is slowly getting there as well. Like videos on the internet is slowly getting there. We're seeing Quibi try to hit that as well. Have you heard about Quibi?
No.
They're a failure. Don't worry too much about them.
Okay. But if we're talking about like clones of popular apps, there's like 3 for TikTok I can think off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Right? So you got Likey. You've got the other one I can't remember the name of, so that's a really poor example. But you also have Reels. Yes. Right. On Instagram, you already have it. And that's I think that's a different discussion, but what I'm getting at is there definitely are alternatives for the biggest apps.
Yes.
The only thing, it's like do you remember Google Plus?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I had a mate who was convinced that Google Plus was the better platform. And I don't doubt him.
Oh, no.
But the thing is, with these social media platforms, with these video servicing platforms, users matter. And if the people aren't there, then the app is no good.
Exactly.
Unfortunately,
people
even
go
if the
to a place
capability
for the
better.
personalities.
But they go for the personalities. They go for the content.
Yeah.
They go for whatever. Like it's like imagine who would have used Facebook if nobody was using it.
No.
Nobody, because that's the core functionality. That's the core functionality was be able to connect with your friends, right? Regardless of how crazy it's gotten now, you can do so many different things on that platform. It's going to be kind of like WeChat in a way. But like, look, that's a different sort of topic. But the idea is the fact that there are alternatives, and we're coming up to the being more alternatives. And I kind of think I'm done with that one.
I'm also all finished up.
All right. So I guess that finishes up for our first ever episode. Guys, if you have any comments, any ideas, please comment down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, please send us a DM on Instagram and let us know what you think.
Our Instagram handles are both right there and right there. I don't know if I pointed to them, but you can find them there and there wherever they are.
Yes, thank you. And I will make Instagram for this podcast in the coming days. But for now, guys, thanks heaps for watching.